There is a moment when you notice not only that you are thinking, but that you can see yourself thinking. It's a tiny shift, easy to miss, and yet it changes more than you might imagine. In that instant, someone steps forward whom you had forgotten for a while. The one who is aware. From the space of awareness, not every thought becomes a law, not every inner sentence turns into a verdict. A thought becomes an event in consciousness, not a badge pinned to your chest. Eckhart Tolle offers a simple and trustworthy picture. Thoughts are clouds, you are the sky. Clouds aren't wrong or sinful or the enemy. Clouds are weather. They gather and dissolve, darken and brighten, sometimes closing the view, sometimes opening it. The sky remains sky throughout. Identifying with the sky doesn't mean you try to keep the sky blue. It means you remember where change actually happens, on the surface. Letting identification loosen doesn't ask you to stop thinking, stop feeling, or stop responding. It asks you to remember you aren't trapped in what you currently think or feel. There is a wider space in which all of this is happening. Look honestly at the habit of thinking and you'll notice a bias. The mind gravitates toward the negative. For evolutionary reasons, signals of danger are louder than the quiet of safety. 3 kind remarks can fade by afternoon, while 1 crooked comment circles your head until night. This negativity bias isn't your fault. It's part of the wiring that tries to protect you. Trouble begins when you mistake the bias for the truth, when you assume the intensity of a thought equals its accuracy. From here, rumination grows. The same loop with the same melody, hoping the 101st replay will solve what the first 100 did not. Rumination gives the mind an illusion of control, while the tension remains. Presence is not the silencing of thought. It is a different quality of seeing. A small, honest attention already changes the field. You don't need hours of meditation or a manufactured silence. It is enough to catch the moment the head starts telling a story about reality and you start arguing for the story against reality. It is enough to notice you're replaying yesterday and trying to edit a sentence that has already been spoken. It is enough to admit you're manufacturing tomorrow and sprinting through the worst-case scenario. It is enough to hear the inner critic forming its guard of ready-made lines. Why are you like this? You ruined it again. Others can do it. Why can't you? Recognition is not magic. It is a doorway. The moment you see what's happening, you are no longer entirely driving the thought, and the thought is no longer entirely driving you. A little space opens between 2 inner sounds, 2 reactions, 2 sentences. In that small space, choice can live. People ask whether you need to label thoughts. You don't have to, and the label isn't the point. The distance it creates is. When you can name to yourself, self-criticism is running, or future-making just started, or replaying the past is happening now, you aren't sugarcoating anything. You're giving a name to what previously ruled without a name. A name doesn't trap. It reveals a pattern, and if it's a pattern, then it is not you. Patterns can be strong, old, and full of feeling or fear, but they remain patterns, not destiny. Rumination is especially tricky because it sells the promise of a solution. One more loop, one more angle, and finally you'll be able to put it down. But what wasn't born from thinking is rarely healed by more thinking. The ruminative engine runs on unrecognized tension in the body, an unnamed fear, an ungrieved loss. When the light of presence falls on what actually hurts, the loop loses momentum. You don't have to defeat it. Fighting is its favorite meal. You don't have to suppress it. Suppression only promises a later wave. You have to see it, and seeing is not cosmetic. The quality of your seeing changes the tone of your voice, the accuracy of your next move, the clarity of your decisions. There is a difference between a thought and a fact. A thought says, "You'll mess this up." The fact is simply you're giving a presentation tomorrow. A thought says they don't respect you. The fact is you received a blunt comment. A thought says it never works. The fact is, this time it didn't work. When you dress a thought in the clothes of a fact, your world narrows. When you let a fact stay a fact and bring attention alongside it, your world widens. That widening doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means more air reaches the space between your actions. Hurry loosens its grip. Your next word and next step arrive with less noise and more essence. You can hear the difference in the rhythm of your inner speech. Rumination is fast, dense, circular. Presence is slower, roomier, more precise. Rumination returns to the same point like a needle stuck in a groove. Presence moves like someone who can see the whole picture, who notices the edge and respects it. It doesn't run from responsibility, and it doesn't turn responsibility into an idol. It doesn't generate unnecessary motion, and it doesn't skip what matters. Alan Watts called this a kind of play with reality, never shallow, always trusting that reality holds. It isn't that nothing matters, it's that you don't have to clamp down on everything to make it matter. This shows up most clearly where we usually live on autopilot. After a sharp email, the mind starts composing a counter-indictment. Presence looks at the situation and at itself. What are the facts? What is the story? What would actually help now? In the middle of the night, thinking opens a ledger of debts, mistakes, and fears. Presence remembers. No contracts with tomorrow are signed at 2 a.m. Morning exists. Light exists. There is real time for real steps. In a conflict, thought reaches automatically for categories. Who's wrong? Who's the victim? Who gets the last word? Presence asks a simpler question. What is actually happening here? And what is the next decent sentence I can speak? The ego often confuses firmness with harshness and clarity with loudness. Presence speaks another language. A clear sentence starts in quiet. That's why it lands more precisely. It isn't compliant or weak. It's tuned, like an instrument that doesn't need to be overblown to be heard. This boundary matters to me, it says, without stabbing. I can't decide well right now. I'll return to this tomorrow, it says, without running away. I want to understand what matters to you here, it says, without abandoning its own sense of truth. Thought tends to swing between two poles. I must be right at all costs or peace at all costs. Presence offers a third way. Keep your humanity and keep reality. Many misunderstandings come from confusing awareness with thoughtlessness or with a permanent positive mode. Presence doesn't mean there are no more dark clouds. Presence means that when it clouds over, you don't forget the sky. You don't have to paint the gray blue, and you don't have to call today's gray your forever. The line that repeats "you'll always be like this" is a thought. The rule that says, if you aren't manufacturing cheerful sentences, you're negative, is a thought. Reality is more concrete than that. Reality is the move you make towards someone, the sentence you actually form, the inner resolve to stop injuring yourself with one more self-accusing line. Thought is often strong in theory and weak in practice. Presence builds quietly. You may notice that recurring thoughts cluster around the same few themes, certain faces, scenes, phrases, storylines. The task isn't to delete them like a bad picture on your phone. It's to learn to recognize them and remember who is seeing them. The seer is not passive. The seer is the space where responsibility is born. From there, you can ask how much reality is in what you're telling yourself. From there, you can decide whether action is needed or whether the cleanest step is to wait until the noise settles. Watch a simple everyday scene. Someone speaks to you a little more sharply than necessary. The old loop leaps up. No respect, always me. What's the point? Presence notices before it responds. It registers warmth in the chest, hears the ready-made lines in the head, feels the shoulders tighten. It doesn't dramatize. It leaves a breath of space. In that space, another sentence appears. When you said that, I felt tension. I'd like to understand what you meant. That line doesn't always win in the immediate scoreboard sense. It often opens a door, and instead of a fight, you get a connection. Connection doesn't mean agreement. It means the human matters more than the tally. Thought loves to manufacture identity. I'm just this kind of person. This always happens to me. No one really gets me. Those stories give quick safety because they draw familiar borders. But borders can block the view. Presence holds the frame more loosely. It neither rebels against it nor worships it. It pays attention to what grows within it. If thought carves identity out of a single day, presence reminds you, you are not one day, not one mistake, not one praise. Life is many, And awareness is the capacity to bear the many without shattering or shrinking into one label. Some worry that taking inner attention seriously will drain their energy, momentum, or humor. The opposite happens. Attention doesn't take, it returns. It returns the freedom to choose not to say the heaviest sentence first. It returns the capacity to see the sky behind someone else's clouds. It returns the lightness of knowing you don't have to decide everything now, and you don't have to fear everything either. Lightness isn't carelessness. It is trust that life carries, and that the next clear step is the best step you can take right now. Over time, you'll notice the volume of thought isn't constant. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's background. Sometimes the cloud is low and dark, sometimes it floats high and thin. The goal isn't to keep clouds away, it's to stop confusing yourself with them. When the inner critic speaks, you don't have to silence it. You can hear what it's trying to protect without handing it the wheel. When fear brings stories, there's no shame in that. Fear can signal something real, and it also loves to dramatize. Presence doesn't take sides, it stands with life and asks what is true now, what is good now, what is decent now. A small amount of attention is enough. That's not comfort talk, it's practical reality. One honest noticing in the middle of your day that says, I'm not thinking about the situation anymore, I'm thinking about my versions of it, is often enough to lower the volume. One clear moment that remembers a thought isn't a fact, and a fact isn't an enemy, is often enough to loosen rumination's grip. These aren't grand gestures, and they have real effects, because they don't build scenery outside, they switch on a light inside. The question isn't whether you can stop thinking forever. The mind thinks the way lungs breathe and hearts beat. The question is whom the thinking serves, fear and self-protection, or a turn toward reality and a clean step forward. Learning to watch your mind is not a glass cage. It's an open window. The same room looks different when more light enters. The same situations take on a different color. The same sentence sounds different. So when you notice the thought coming too close, remember the simple picture, cloud and sky. The cloud doesn't have to promise it won't return. The sky doesn't have to promise it will always be blue. Each keeps its nature. The cloud passes, the sky remains. You are the sky. If you forget, remembering is enough, not with grand declarations, but with the quiet inner turn that sees, I am thinking. The one who sees is already breathing more freely. Maybe no definition will stay with you. Maybe it will be a feeling, a sense of spaciousness that doesn't ask permission, applause, or proof. The kind of quiet that isn't empty but full of life. From there it becomes simpler to say no to what harms and yes to what is alive. From there it's harder to believe that the sharpest sentence is the strongest. From there humor returns because you no longer take every inner line as ultimate. From there relationships deepen because you can see the sky behind another person's clouds. If one line is worth carrying, let it be this: don't believe everything you think. Beware of your thoughts, the way you would watch the weather. Let the clouds come and go. A little light is enough to show the next clear word and the next clear step. And if you forget along the way, don't turn on yourself for it. Presence is not an exam, it is a homecoming, and the road home always begins now.